So it's time we have a discussion about strippers. And yes, these are the women who remove their clothing for a living. Now, why would we have this discussion? Well, first of all, the strip club industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry with a presence across the entire country, and it's not going anywhere anytime soon. In fact, to survey our media culture and exclude strip clubs would be a mistake. Furthermore, there is a major assumption regarding strip clubs, particularly the women who are in this profession, in that they're degrading themselves through this act. And there are two major problems with this assumption. First, all women have a natural apprehension against being degraded. Now, of course, the argument can still be made that even though they have the apprehension, they're still doing it. But there's a second component to women that alludes to the fact that something else is going on, and that's that all women are schemers. In fact, they're so good at their scheming that they're not even conscious of what they're doing. Now, why? Why would they not be conscious of the schemes they're running on men? Well, on occasion, men have been known to interrogate the women in their life. Now, why are they doing this? They can sense the woman up to something, but they can't pin her down on exactly what it is. So they try to investigate her, to interrogate her. And the woman's best defense at this time is to not be conscious of the schemes she's running. So if we bring that understanding of women to strippers, we start to see that there's something else going on here. The strip club industry is not about degrading women, as the title above alludes to. It's about degrading masculinity. So if we want to understand strippers, we need to look at three separate principles. The first is the exalted form, the second, the discarded creations, and the third, the inanimate pole. And let's start with the exalted form. If we look inside a strip club, the stage in relation to the seats is very important. The woman is above the men. She is exalted. Now, of course, the discussion can be laid forth that this is so the men can see her, because she's higher. It makes it easier to see. However, to understand the true purpose of this, you must look at something else. Consider the shoes. Is it critical to have these extra 4, 6, or 8 inches of shoe? Of course not. It's not necessary so the men can see her to have these extra few inches. However, the shoes display the paramount importance for the stripper to exalt the form, the original form of beauty, formed in the 7 days of creation, and display that form gloriously. So if we look at the perspective of the man in the strip club, he is at her feet, worshiping her, adoring her, amazed by the splendor of the exalted form before him. So he is beneath her, below her, aware of his position in life as an irrelevant, worthless being before the exalted form of glory. And that, of course, brings us to the second component of the stripper's scheme, and that is the discarded creations. Now, it's easy to get caught up on the woman's body being without clothing, but we often forget about the garments themselves. They're being discarded onto the ground. What does that mean? There is a meaning there. And first, we must look at the garments themselves. What is the purpose of these garments on a woman's body? Well, they're there to enhance the beauty, right? These are formed by humanity, by men in particular, to enhance the form and the figure of the woman. And what does the stripper do with these creations meant to enhance her beauty? She throws them on the ground, like refuse, like trash, like they're meaningless, which they are in comparison to the exalted form. Now remember, Most of these men have just come from work. And what do they do at work? They're trying to improve their world. And the woman, as the embodiment of the whole world, is there at the end of the day to show him how worthless his creations are, to symbolically remove the human creations from her form and throw them on the ground. Throw them at times even in the man's face to show him how worthless his efforts have been in improving not just her, but the whole world. That is extremely degrading to a man that works all day towards improving the world. And that brings us to the ultimate degrading experience, the inanimate pole. Now, if we look at a stripper pole, it's a very simple creation. It is a piece of metal that goes from the floor to the ceiling. And that's not what is important. What is important is what the woman uses the pole for. She dances with it. She moves with it. She creates a wondrous, amazing experience. And all the men stand back in awe of the amazing, profound experience that she's creating with this piece of metal, which is greater than them. They know that if they got up on that stage, they could not create such glory with this woman. In fact, the piece of metal is more useful than the man. So the stripper is showing every man in the building how worthless he is by creating more effectively with an inanimate object than with a living, free-willed man. And there is no depiction more horrifying to a man to see that he is irrelevant. Not only irrelevant, but inanimate objects are more useful to a woman than him. So if we consider these three components of the stripper's scheme, we can start to understand why women agree to this profession. So if they're in their interview, they sit down and they start sensing, this job is going to let me exalt my form, which I know needs to be exalted. I know it is exalted, and I know it's glorious. And I get to be on stage and wear the shoes and be above these men. They will worship me. And I get to symbolically throw human creations into their face, show them how worthless all their efforts are in improving not just me, but the whole of creation. And then I get to dance with a pole, create things that I could not even create with a man, and I can show all these men how worthless they are. I get to do all these things, and you're going to pay me? Well, that just sounds like a job custom designed for a desirable helper. So in the end, if we consider the scheme, we understand that strippers degrade masculinity to help men face their irrelevant worthlessness.